Well, guys, let me tell you, this was a hell of a mistake. It was my fault, but not my fault. So, back in July or August, I took that dash completely off so that we could take all the wires that were here and stuff and bring them back down to the panel, to the junction box, to totally remove them because it was speaker wires, lights, overhead lights, IO lights, all the passenger type of stuff. So I took it out and I marked them, but all I had was a pencil and I did it thinking that it would stay. But no, the wind, imagination, I don't know what did it, but the numbers were gone when a few days ago I went to put it together. They were just gone. So I figured, well, no big deal.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. I called MCI support, I called publications, I called the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, I called everybody. And the reality is that there really isn't a schematic that shows you. There are some diagrams that says this has 2 plugs, 5 plugs, whatever, and this is what it looks like, but they give you no wire numbers, and they'll only show you one side. And a connector is not good if it doesn't connect to something else. So now I know that on the instrument side, this plug comes out of there, but who knows where it connects. And the problem is lack of information again, because if you look at these schematics here, they'll come up with a number. For example, this is 7L13. Well, you put the
Yeah.
13 something. Anyway, so all these 7L13s is a schematic of a bunch of systems. It's not a plug connected to systems. So if you want to get how that plug is wired, you have to get a schematic that says 7L-12 something. And then it'll give you that specific pin or set of pins for that plug. But guess what? They don't tell you what it connects to. So now you know what wires are supposed to be there, but not where they go, you know. So I'm hoping, Woon went around and made a list of everything that she could possibly find, and on the wire harness itself, on some plugs, because some of them is just torn off and disappeared and whatever, but on some of them it's still there, and it has a little number that says 7L-12- whatever, and it gives the wiring to that specific plug. So I talked to them earlier today, and they told me put a list, send us an email, and then somebody should do the research of those plugs and send you some email with some diagrams or something.
Okay.
Of course, they've said that before, and they didn't follow through. I can think of 4 or 5 times where they said, we'll get back with you, and I'm still waiting. It's been months, you know, so it's not going to happen. But I'm hoping that it happens with this, because the reality is that they're 2 sets of schematics, and maybe more, because there's the 7L13 and there's the 7L12 series, and the 7L12 is the schematic of individual harnesses. Well, guess what? I need those individual harnesses to connect with another individual harness. So if I can if I can match sides, by identifying, like for example, if this is the schematic for the cruise control on this side, all I have to do is find the cruise control diagram on that side. And once I find that, right, I know that wire 1, 2, 3 red light is over here, and 1, 2, 3 red light is over here. One will say, well, it depends on how they do it. And the way they're doing it, they're giving one number to both sides. And that's okay. So if I can identify this plug as being plug 1, and I can identify over there as plug 1, and then they go together. All I have to do is look at some of these numbers and look at some of those numbers over there, and they should match. But unfortunately, for example, these schematics, I talked to customer service up in Dallas, and they told me, look, in Bay 1, there should be some schematics, and not everybody has them because they just disappear over time. But I was fortunate that these are still there. So with this, I have been able to go through and identify a lot of these plugs. So if I can identify this, and I can identify the other side as being plug 1, plug 2, plug, and then I can connect them. So I've got most of them identified here on these attachments that go there. I still have to do the instrument panel cluster, and then when I'm done with that, then I have to go over to the bus side of the thing and do the same thing. Find the plug, try to find it in here, and identify it as plug 1, 2, 3, whatever, And we're talking about time.
Yeah.
Big time. Now, I used to work as an aircraft electrician, and let me tell you, very simple, very simple. You would always see a plug and a plug, and it would tell you wire blah 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 blah, and you would know that this plug has four pins, 20 pins, whatever. You knew how many pins it had. You knew how many were empty because it would say spare, and you had the wire number. And if it was attached to a schematic like this, it would show you where they went. Now, if they were going off to La La Land out there, it would say, pin 1 going to here, pin 2 going. It would tell you where it's going. Or if all the wires were going to the same place, they would put page 321 or whatever. They would tell you, and you go to that page and the continuation would be there. So there was always a beginning and end for every wire. Here, you can have a wire, a plug with 24 wires. Here they show you one wire. The rest of them, you have to keep looking through the schematics and hopefully you find them. But they don't tell you, connect this to this. It's just, So you have to go through all this thing little by little and try to match it to that side because they just don't have it. The other thing they don't have is, let's say I'm working on something, I find a broken wire. I find this wire here, and this wire happens to be number 324, whatever, I can go to a wire index, and you go through, and you find wire 324, and it'll say oil gauge. It'll say whatever system it belongs to. So now you know that this wire belongs to that particular system, and all you need to do is go to the schematic for that system, and that wire's there. And oh yeah, this connects here, whatever. But not here. Here you have a broken wire, and guess what you have? A broken wire, because you have no idea where it goes. So you don't even know what system it goes to. So this thing here, in my opinion, is very badly done. It's just, and the other thing they do is because you have different coaches, different revisions of things, they started out with whatever the first coach with that schematic, and as time went on, something happened and they would change something, and then you'd have revision A, revision B, revision. Here, they mix it all together, and it's up to you to find out what's what, you know? So when you call technical support and they go, we can't help you, that what you're looking for doesn't exist, you know? And my question has been, well, on day one when they built this bus, the engineer had to have some kind of schematic, some kind of guidance to the people building it and say, hey, here it is, you know? And say, yeah, they have those, but they won't share those. And it's like, why not, you know? We don't know.
Okay. Have fun then.
Yeah, I have a fun headache is what I have. But, I mean, you know, it's okay. It doesn't matter. You know, I could get mad. I could get this. The bottom line is, if I don't just do it, it's going to be just like that, and I'm not moving forward. So I have to take my time and go until I get it right. Now, I'm sure that technical support is tired of hearing from me, but it's not my fault. If they were to send me the right thing on the first time, we'd be done. And that's why I bought the manuals. They say, hey, buy this manual. Okay, I buy it. It's not complete. It's a disaster. It tells you very little. You know, I talked to publications and say, oh, you need to buy the parts. That was $150 for that manual. And they told me nothing, you know. And I mean, you know, what do? Go buy a Prevo? Well, if I could afford one, I'd buy one. But here we are. This is what we have. So we have to make do with what we have. And I'm sure that after it's all done and everything's working and we're going down the road, you won't even remember any of this, you know. But right now, there's a lot of frustration and a lot of headache. But yeah, we'll get it done. It's just going to take a few days, maybe a week or something. Hopefully not, but yeah, when we get through with all that, then there we are, you know. Yeah, okay.
Okay. See you later.
We'll just keep on trucking. Good morning, guys. So, as you know, I had a catastrophic event here with the instrument panel connections. And I've been going back and forth, calling everybody and the brother. And everybody was trying to help me, but I wasn't getting what I needed. So I talked to a guy up in Dallas, and he told me about some schematics that were in Bay 1 that I had seen when we first bought the bus, forgotten about it, but after he told me about it, I realized that they were very helpful. So I looked at this schematic and went there, and then I discovered something else. Let me see. Oh, no, yeah, right here. See these little tags here? It has a schematic page number, and I called the technical support line for MCI, and the guy looked it up, and he sent me a copy of that thing. And what it is, it's a wire bundle schematic, and that's what I needed all along, because they were giving me one side but not the other, and they were directing me to the master wiring schematic diagram for the whole coach, but it's very confusing, at least to me. And the reason for that is because whenever you see, like, let's say for example this, well, they only show you one wire here and one wire there, but they never show you the whole plug. And what this number here does, it gives you all the wire numbers, all the pins, and you know, the whole thing here. It doesn't tell you where to go, but they show you all this, which is great because now you have a wire number, you know where it goes basically by following this back, and it gives you a plug number. So now they had given you the front part of whatever connects here. So now you match that with this, and it's a lot easier. You can have a better chance of connecting these things. So anyway, what he told me is make a list, send us an email, and we'll look into it and see if we can help you with all of them. So I did that. Woon went by and collected all these numbers, and I put an email together, send it to MCI technical support, and what he told me was, he said, whoever's available will pick the email up and do whatever they can for you. And yeah, that's what I did here. Yeah, so that's what I did. I started this list and I sent it to them. And the person that picked it up was one of the managers for technical support. And this guy is fantastic. He had me send him some photos of this thing. And just by the location of these things and the plug size and all that stuff, he identified some of them. And he's working on the other ones. And he says, I know you're pretty stressed. I know you're frustrated. But we're going to get it done because it's not as it's not as complicated and it's not as overwhelming as you feel. So he said, we'll get it done. Little by little we get it done. Now, I still don't know, but he told me, he says, you don't need to disconnect all this stuff here when you want to take your instrument panel, because something to do with a big plug somewhere or something. And I haven't quite identified where that big plug is. But right now, my biggest concern is getting all this connected so I can continue and do what I need to do. But somewhere along the way, I will find out. And when I get all this done and everything's working and everything, they sell these little plastic ties with a little nameplate on it, and I will put one of those on both sides of that plug, and I will mark and identify every single plug here. So if I ever need to remove this thing, I won't go through this. I mean, it's a hell of an experience. But the good thing is, I mean, I'm the type of person that I always try to find whatever light there is, whatever good there is in any, because there's always something good. And this has put me in such a place that it's teaching me a lot of things that most people that are doing conversions don't learn. And my biggest thing is, if I'm out in the middle of nowhere and I break down, for somebody to come and pick me up and take me to where there's somebody that can overcharge me, it's going to cost me. So just for towing, it could be $1,500, $2,500, $3,500, who knows, but it's very expensive to get this thing moved somewhere. And then once you get there, depending on whether it's a little shop or a big shop, it'll cost you $130 an hour, $250 an hour for the big places. So, at that price, if they work on it for a day or even 4 hours, I mean, that bill jumps very, very quickly, So my thing is if I can do it myself, then that's what I'm going to do. Because if I can fix it without calling anybody, then there you go. You just saved anywhere from $1,500 to $3,500, and you're not stranded out there for hours or days or whatever. So I will make any kind of effort that I can to learn and be able to be self-sufficient, because I get it. To work on something this big, it takes a lot of equipment, and not only that, a lot of heavy, expensive equipment. I get it. But they shouldn't try to pay it off in one customer. They should spread it out over many, many customers. The bottom line is that it's very expensive to have somebody work on it, and now don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good mechanics out there, but there's some that are part replacers, and they have no idea, and they just do this, do that, and each time your bill's getting bigger and bigger, and they didn't fix anything until maybe they hit it by accident. Now, a good example of that is there's a guy with his family. There's 6 of them, so it's the man, the wife, and 4 kids on a Class A motorhome. And I've mentioned this before, but I was just so taken aback with this thing. They went down a gravel road, and he had the type of coach that the radiator was down where the engine is. It wasn't up high, it was down low. So as he was going down the road, all the dust and stuff that was being picked up got sucked into his radiator. But at the time, he didn't know it. And then he went down the road, and it rained, so all that stuff turned into mud, and it just clogged up his radiator. Sounds simple enough, sounds cheap enough, but that's not what happened. He was going up this, not even a mountain, a hill, and he was overheating, so he stopped at this one shop, and they said, "Oh yeah, it's your thermostat." So they replaced it, ran it down the road for a test drive. Nope. It's your water pump. They replaced it, go down the road. Nope, that's not it. So they kept replacing parts, and each time, nope. And then some guy came into the shop that used to work there, and he was retired now. And he goes, "Have you checked this radiator?" And they went down there. It was just a whole wall of mud turned into concrete. They took the power washer, and that was it. But he paid over $6,000 just for that repair, which only needed a power wash. But because they replaced the parts, they thought he had to pay for them, had to pay for the labor, had to pay for everything. Not to mention that he had to stay in a hotel for several days. He had to eat in restaurants for several days. So this thing cost him a lot. And it was because of the lack of experience, the lack of knowledge of the mechanics, So that's why I say they have good intentions, but they're part replacers, They don't go from the simplest thing like, is the radiator breathing? Is this and this and this? No, they went right to the most expensive parts and this and that, and they had nothing to do with it. So he bought new parts and paid for all the labor unnecessarily. They didn't say, okay, you know what, it was our fault, we'll, not charge you the labor, we'll just charge you for the parts. No. And that's the kind of thing I want to avoid. Now, if I decide I'm going to replace this and it's the wrong thing, well, that's on me. I'm the one that made the decision, It's my time, it's my money, it's whatever, So, and not being a mechanic, okay. But when you have a mechanic that's charging you money, they should know, And that's what I'm trying to avoid by doing all this. Right now, we're reworking a whole cooling system because if that thing overheats, it can warp your heads and your pistons, and just blow the whole engine up, and they're not cheap. So even though it's going to cost us about maybe $5,000, I'm going to go ahead and do it because as I'm finding out, sometimes it's not as easy as just going to the store and picking up a part. Right now, I've spent a couple of weeks already trying to find the engine number on this thing. Can't find it. Everybody tells me it's here. No, it's not there. Over here. No, it's not. Because they can't give me a water pump without that engine serial number. Now they said, well, the other thing you can do is you can pull out the water pump and hopefully it has a part number, and then we can get you one. And if not, we can take that and see if we can match it to a water pump because we need that number. Now I gave them a VIN number and hopefully they can do that, but it's whenever they have time. I'm not the only one they're dealing with, so somewhere along the line I hope they can manage to get those parts. So can you imagine if you're on the road and you're like and you're stuck out there for a week or two? That's not cheap, especially since a lot of these shops, they won't let you stay in your coach while you're waiting for all this stuff, and they just won't do it. So if they remove that water pump and that bus is inside the shop, they're not going to pull that out for you so that you can stay while. Now there are some shops that will let you stay there even though they're inside their shop. They'll trust you enough or whatever. And you can stay there and save some money, but not everybody's like that. So you have to do whatever it is you can to avoid all this stuff. And hopefully we're doing the right thing by, redoing that whole cooling system so we don't have those kind of problems. Can you still have problems? Sure. It's a mechanical thing. But my chances of having problems are a lot less than everybody else, So, yeah. Anyway, slowly but surely we're working through it, and hopefully I'll get all the information that I need to put these instrument panels together. And don't make that mistake. Make absolutely sure that when you disconnect these things, you have something that's not going to fade. When I did it, I said, okay, I'm marking everything, so it's no problem putting it back together. But I never thought about fading. And it's been several months, about 3.5 months since I took it apart. And all the numbers are gone. So the tape is just a piece of tape dangling there because it didn't help me. So, yeah. And when I get done with this, it's a hard lesson learned. I will put permanent plug numbers on all these things so that if I have to disconnect it, don't worry, there it is. All right, guys, we'll update you as we go. See you.
Okay.
Thanks for watching.
ขอบคุณเจ้า
See you next time.
แล้วปะกันแฮมไมนะเจ้า
See you.
บ๊ายบาย